We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners, Burke Britton Financial Partners. Do you have anything specifically that you wanted to talk about or that's on your mind?
Not really. I've done a lot of aged care work recently.
Okay, well, maybe let's start there. So with the aged care stuff, why are you seeing more aged care people now? Just
perhaps more referrals for aged care work. Perhaps that's, an ageing client base where that's a need for them to support, mum, dad, husband, wife. Perhaps it's coming up more in that fashion. And also, I suppose, retirement villages or lifestyle villages. So again, perhaps, ageing client base. And that's where the need is coming from. I think the aged care aspect, that's an area that people really need financial support because they're already working through the emotional aspect of perhaps feeling guilty around having a loved one entering care when they're no longer able to keep them at home. So, yeah, taking away the stress of at least the financial aspect, which is significant for people entering aged care in particular.
I think there's I had a client last week where not currently dealing with aged care, but obvious anxiety around anticipating it and also having very little understanding around how you go about funding. I think there's certainly a misconception around how aged care is funded and how getting into an aged care facility actually works. And the anxiety around thinking I'm going to have to sell my home or I'm going to have to really not spend any of the money that I've got right now in anticipation for the fact I'm going to have this huge bill. Yep.
Yeah.
And if I don't have the funds available, then aged care just will not be an option. I won't have the opportunity for my loved one to get them into care. And I think, there's complexity around aged care, but I think the earlier that conversation can start to be had around what does aged care look like? And there certainly is. I mean, we can see we've got an ageing population and there is the sort of supply and demand balance is out of whack. So there is a lot more people needing aged care than there is places
available. Yeah.
So the government is obviously looking at opportunities to have people stay in their home much longer with support than they maybe would otherwise do. But also, I think educating people around that transition, it's kind of scary. It's a little bit like estate planning. It's one of those things that you don't really want to talk about, but you kind of need to talk about. And it's not really a problem, particularly if you're in good health. It's not a problem until it becomes a problem. And then if you're trying to sort of rally in an emotional time, trying to gather together the information, it's confusing. Sometimes it's very urgent because it might be very health specific or time specific.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That proactive nature of actually looking at what the future might hold. It might be 12 months away, it might be 5 years away, but just having an understanding of the implications of a loved one entering care, whether that be, as you've touched on, might be a home care package, so help that person stay at home a bit longer and have support at home, or it might be aged care. Might just be that you're at a point in life where you're, empty nesters, you've got more time available and you want to actually, live a little bit more after having worked and you want to look at a lifestyle village. And again, the implications around, deferred management fees and things like that when, the point in time comes where you exit that particular home. So
that's a good point because I think even the distinction between retirement villages and aged care and different levels of aged care, again, it's probably things like sometimes, particularly when we're younger, we feel like we're going to live forever. And then that realization as we get older and we move towards retirement, it's another one of those sort of pivotal milestones in people's lives that we, as financial advisors, generally see a lot of planning either be required or people needing to start to think about. You think about first job, starting a family, first home, starting a business, retirement, maybe significant, like a big travel.
Yeah, big life events.
And most of those big life events require a lifestyle decision, and they generally accompany with some sort of financial outcome or a financial decision that needs to be worked through. And
And that if you're proactive in that respect, then you can make an informed decision at a point in time that suits you rather than being perhaps in a position where mum's had a fall at home and all of a sudden, she has to enter care and sort of scrambling to catch up. Whereas if perhaps we can, have a conversation around what the next 5 years might look like for mum now, then we can start planning for that and discuss the ramifications of, okay, there's a family home, but, dad's no longer around, so mum will have the home assessed, and what does that mean, and so on. So
it's interesting the way you're talking about that. You're talking about the children of the person going into care being part of the planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it also, I suppose the best result, if people are asking us what's the best result, it's probably all parties being part of that decision-making process. I don't know, for us, so the easiest or the best scenarios are where we have a really, like our long-standing clients, like we've been essentially educating them over the course of, we've been in business now 21 years and Peter in the industry for sort of 25 plus. We've been talking to them. We know their situation. We know their family members. We know the dynamics. We know their assets, and those seeds of understanding around what they should expect at these milestones have already begun. Now, that's not to say if you haven't got a relationship with someone, you can't start. But it's like, when's the best time to plant a tree?
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. And in the absence of having done that, it's today. Get busy actually laying the foundation for some good planning and actually understanding what your options are. Because I think we've talked ad nauseum about this on all of our podcast to date, is that it's about being able to make informed decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like life is about being able to make informed decisions and not feeling like you're being dictated to by circumstances. How do you do that? It's personal responsibility. You've got to kind of say, okay, I can impact the outcome of the future here by taking some control.
Yeah, and I think that fear around what will happen when, my loved one enters, care or those sorts of potential fears that people have, you can fairly quickly allay those fears when they are just informed and they understand what will happen and what it will look like. Okay, it's not as scary as we first thought that it might be. Yeah, so we can really support them through that process. And had a bit of a moment of reflection earlier in the week. So I've been fortunate enough to be part of Burke Britain for not far off 20 years. And a client is actually just entering aged care. His wife is assisting him enter aged care. And I just reflect back on, gosh, when I first started working with these clients, they were, in the midst of working life, looking forward to retirement and, their golden years, perhaps we refer to them as. And today we're here fortunate enough to be in a position, supporting them through this next major milestone, which is, aged care. So, it's really humbling to be able to do that and really share that journey with people over such a long period of time.
And you can kind of look at that two ways. I'm sure you can look at that with the very optimistic and Peter Burke view and look at what those clients have been able to fit in those 20 years. I suppose the pessimistic view of that is, maybe the realistic view of that is that 20 years went quick.
Yeah.
That 20 years went very quick. And before you know it, 20 years has gone past. And what were your twilight years? And now, we're requiring support and aged care. And if done well, it can be a very positive time. But again, like we've said, a lot of the time in the current environment, it's not done very well because people are very anxious and uncertain about their options. And our job is to, give information to make informed decisions. I don't know. I think I invented this. It's not really an analogy. It's more sort of a phrase about the window of time that I talk to clients about.
A trio.
So that time, money and health is a period of time where, generally speaking, in retirement, where people they've got time because they're now retired, they're no longer in the workforce at someone else's discretion with their time. They have money because they've accumulated what they've got.
They've worked.
And the third one, which is their health, which for most people is the most out of their control. Maybe not, but that when you've got you've got those three things together, the sort of the trifecta of time, money and health, that's the window of time to actually be doing the things that you actually want to do. And all of our encouragement for our clients, as much as we're financial advisors, we want to see people actually enjoying their life and spending their money and doing the things that they actually want to do, because we do recognise how finite life is.
That freedom to go and do what you want while you can. That's what we're about. Yeah. You're not trying to penny pinch it away for a rainy day that might never come. There's got to be a real balance around making sure you have longer term objectives that can be met, but also you're in a position to have the lifestyle that you want now.
Yeah. Because if it's not about having the lifestyle that you actually want, then kind of what is it about? And I know that luxury isn't afforded to everyone, which again is why I think our job we take so seriously in actually helping people put together the lifestyle that they really want to achieve. Is there anything else in and around sort of the aged care? And I think we did have a conversation with Peter a couple of podcasts back around aged care, but is there anything else that you're seeing at the moment in sort of aged care, residential care, retirement village space that is sort of worth talking about?
Probably just on the retirement village and, lifestyle village space, perhaps there's been a bit of a desire to downsize homes over the last, perhaps 12 months or so, where there's potentially been a peak in the property market. And that might have been enough for sort of a tipping point for people to decide, okay, yep, it's time to sell up my big family home and look at a lifestyle village. And again, it's just about being informed around not only the implications when you enter, but what that looks like when you exit, and just ensuring that you're across, as I said earlier, perhaps the deferred management fee or whatever that looks like in the particular facility that you're deciding to live at.
So for those people that sort of don't understand what the sort of lifestyle villages are, I mean, I've seen a few. I've been out to see clients at a few of them. From my perspective, it's like a supported residence where a lot of the facilities that people would need are there on tap. It might be some of them at the very top end are gymnasiums and pools and
it's like a resort.
A resort, yeah.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah, it's like a resort, but with all of the support maybe on a residence is maybe on a smaller, more manageable level, but all of the support services are there, whether it be day spas and beauty
gardeners
treatments and restaurants and everything that you could possibly need.
Yeah, probably something that's quite new for Geelong, as far as I understand, is a provider that's opened a facility out in Highton. And basically this particular facility, you might enter at sort of the retirement village level. And as your needs increase, so in particular your health needs, you might have less mobility, you might have, health deterioration, they will find you a place that's appropriate for your needs at that point in time. So you can continue living in that same village or facility, but you can be supported as your needs increase as you age. So
from your own home, retire to a retirement village. As you progress through that and maybe mobility changes, you then move into essentially the aged care element of that facility or that village.
Yep. So it's a longer term prospect whereby it's probably less likely that you would have to move as your needs, potentially your health needs increase. Yeah.
Well, I think definitely we need to and we'll continue to see innovation in that aged care space because it's going to be one of the fastest growing, and it is an industry, like one of the fastest growing areas in our economy and one of the fastest growing industries because we've got an aging population that needs to be cared for and accommodated in their retirement years. What else are we seeing, Delta? What else are you seeing in sort of client scenarios of recent time? I was kind of thinking about just sort of the market conditions as they stand at the moment and the uncertainty in markets, which is probably, as we come to our review periods where our clients, or our 6 or 12-month reviews, it's obviously a fairly hot topic. But one of the things I've noticed, particularly with our existing clients, is just how, I'm not sure whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, how accustomed or understanding, maybe relaxed. Now, I think about that two ways. It's either we've done a really good job of educating clients to not react emotionally when the markets have wild fluctuations. The other way I'd look at it is say the market's actually been very volatile. We've had, in the space of like 2.5 years, we've had 2 significant downturns in the market. Again, the pessimist in me says, well, there's a fair bit of negativity in the market at the moment that potentially flows onto clients being concerned about it. The optimistic side of me says, and the financial advisor in me says, for every crisis, there is opportunity. And a lot of the conversations I've been having with clients at the moment, even retiree clients who have kind of their retirement lump sum settled, they're not contributing to it additionally, is that there's opportunities to take advantage of the market when it's in this period of volatility. And what are the things that we can actually do? Like if people are salary sacrificing into super, or if they're making investments, if they've got investments that are non-super, the idea of small incremental contributions over a prolonged period of time, this is go time for investing. Like this period of downturn, maybe we expect further downturn in markets over the course of the next 12, 24 months, but this is go time when it comes to investing. If we have surplus cash, either in cash flow, or if we have surplus cash in the investment funds that we have or a client has, we should be looking at how we take advantage of this, not how we panic about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just back to the point around clients perhaps being more relaxed, and hopefully that is because there's been an education process with clients around markets and market cycles. A lot of clients have been around long enough now that they've seen at least a few of these, and they understand that while there might be a market downturn at present, at some point in time, it will pick up. And I suppose from our point of view, nobody can foresee the next COVID, but there will be something. Markets are cyclical. There'll be something that impacts the markets again in future. So having that longer term outlook, like you've touched on, where you've got, regular deposits or contributions entering into the market, it just means that you can ride out these periods and use this now as an opportunity to get in at a lower price. Yeah.
Talking to Willow, my eldest daughter, who's 16, having this conversation now around, she's got a job, she's got her first job, and she's got a little bit of income coming in, and just having that conversation about the magic of compounding interest, particularly when you have time on your side, and how small incremental contributions over a long period of time can make such a significant difference. And you compare that versus the person who's done no investing, whether it be outside of super, inside super, and then are trying to play catch up at a later point in time. If you could put any message out there for the younger generation as they start to enter the workforce, it is consider making some small regular contributions to something, get into good habits early, and the magic of compounding interest and the magic of time will help look after your financial future.
Yeah, and just on that point, Jay, when we compare perhaps something like a property investment versus an investment that might be in shares or managed funds or similar, the comparison there, and this has been coming through a fair bit with potential new clients that I've been speaking with that are perhaps younger, and when you look at purchasing a property, there's a massive capital outlay which can stop you being able to access that type of investment. So starting an investment just with a few $1,000s that you might drip feed, an amount each fortnight from your pay into, as you say, over the longer term, the compounding interest, it's just remarkable what sort of balances you can achieve where you're committed to ensuring that you're doing that now.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm thinking about that, was it article or a quote about, I'm not sure who it was, whether it was Scott Pape or someone else in the finance sector said, well, if you want to save, just stop eating avocado on toast and paying $20 for it every day. And I'm talking to my mum about discretionary spending and the difference between my mum's generation and how they saved and accumulated. And they really didn't, if they were saving for something particular, they didn't have extraordinary amounts of discretionary spending. They weren't indulging in the kinds of things that we do today. And I know it's a different era, but I think that the cost of property prices is obviously another big hot topic, particularly for the younger generation, thinking how will we ever get into the property market? But at the same time, you look at the levels of discretionary spending for all generations, but particularly the younger generation where it's so easy to spend money. Credit is still so readily accessible, and if we want something, we can have it with a one click on Amazon. Afterpay
versus lay-by.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. My mum would say, listen, if I didn't have the money, I just didn't have it. Or if it was for Christmas, we put things on lay-by. And then I'd go and put $2. And again, it sounds, when you're trying to have that conversation from my mum's generation to my kids' generation, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think the gap is just reminding people that you can actually make effective use of the income that you have, and that if you make effective use of it, you can accumulate a significant amount if you give yourself some time and some discipline to actually put those funds away and do something, something worthwhile with it.
Topic for another day, but I don't even know if kids actually value money because there's no physical presence of actual money these days. Money's all, electronic.
Yeah.
So,
well, that combined with the fact that the curriculum, I was looking at, again, my eldest daughter Willow and her curriculum for her, she's in year 10 moving into year 11, year 12. And other than maybe some business and economics studies or subjects that are available, there really isn't anything around how to manage money. Yeah, that financial literacy, which is really concerning, I think, that kids aren't given the opportunity to, obviously parents can give their kids that opportunity, but from a schooling perspective, there really isn't that committed curriculum for them to understand about financial literacy and around debt and cash flow management. Cash flow management 101, we even talk about it with our clients that are, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, it doesn't matter. Cash flow is king. So if you can actually understand and get a handle on income in versus expenses out and what's left and how the expenses that you can control and what you do with the difference, the surplus. If we were training and teaching kids that as early as possible, then they'd be much better served when it comes to dealing with money when they start to earn a reasonable income. So
I love the way you refer to that as the household economy. People are concerned around the economy in general, which, most of us don't have any influence over. But are we taking that level of control and concern around our household economy? As you say, having a handle on what's coming in and what's going out.
I think that's, without getting too philosophical, one of the issues that I see broadly is that people concern themselves with so many things that are out of their control and without first dealing with the things that are in their control. So when clients will come in or potential clients come in and start to talk about their concerns about the economy, I'll say that the only economy we really need to worry about is your household economy. That's where we start, and then you can sort of reverberate out. And I would argue that the same thing would apply with things like, when people are concerned about the climate crisis. Well, what are the things that you can actually do yourself? So rather than having broad sweeping anxiety about the world is going to implode.
Eat up.
Yeah. Eat up, implode, cool, whatever's going to happen. What can I actually do in my household? And then start to reverberate out from there. So I think that's, again, comes down to personal responsibility, and it starts there. Everything starts with personal responsibility and then sort of reverberates out, and then you can start to influence other people outside of that.
An extension to that too, Jay, when we look at personal responsibility, clients that are coming through now that have been in the workforce where there's always been compulsory super guarantee contributions, they're coming in at a younger age with quite a healthy super balance. Now, super is pretty dry when you're in your 20s, 30s, probably forever for most people, not for us. But it's so important to take responsibility and be aware of, where your super's invested, what sort of beneficiary nominations you might have in place, what insurance is within it. And again, we love to talk about super, not everyone else does, but having an awareness of that implication, because that's 10% of your income that is, automatically deposited into super for you. Over the longer term, you're going to be okay, but you need to be conscious of it now.
Yeah, there's no one else doing mandated investment on behalf of employees in any other country. This is a unique, a very, very unique system that we have in Australia that we definitely take for granted. And sure, there's potentially positives and negatives of that. I know from business owners' point of view, the increasing super guarantee can have an impact from a business point of view. From an employee's point of view, it's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit. You think about 10% of everything that everyone earns in Australia gets mandated to be contributed into an investment for people's retirement future. it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And again, probably a topic for another day, but the inequality in people within Australia that are in the workforce or in paid employment versus perhaps in caring roles that are unpaid roles, what impact does that have for their future where, super, this retirement pool is probably not going to be something that they can rely on, or the steps that you can take, over your lifetime to ensure that you're not in a position where you get to that point in life and you sort of got nothing you can fall back on.
And there's a bunch of those like inequalities when it comes to being able to benefit from that compulsory super guarantee system. Like you said, people that are carers, people that are looking after families. You've got small business owners that choose not to or don't know that they really should be making an equivalent contribution to super. And again, that's why the earlier you can actually talk to someone about how you make the most effective use of the income and the assets that you've got, and if your circumstances are such that you're not receiving, like you're not employed and getting that 10% super guarantee, what are the other things we can do? What are the things that we should be thinking about? And back to sort of starting as early as we possibly can, one of the great things about actually starting early, building a pool of investments, even if you don't know what that pool of investment will be used for. Is it a deposit for a home? Don't know. Is it to supplement 2 years worth of lost income because we've started a family? Don't know. Is it because I want to have a year out of the workforce to go and travel overseas? Is it to start a business? But it's another lever that you can pull when those life events come up and you need to support yourself. So again, the earlier you possibly can start, whether it's yourself or whether it's your kids or your grandkids. Like you've been in a few appointments now where we've seen like kids and grandkids of our clients and them being really intrigued and interested about how they can follow in the footsteps of their parents and their grandparents to make sure they've got sort of that financial independence and certainty. It's a great thing, and it provides
very powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful not only from a financial point of view, but when you realize that you can actually, impact your own outcome, or you can see people, just the confidence it gives people to go, I can be, autonomous in my life, and I don't necessarily have to be dictated by, what I get paid or where I work. I've got control, I've got choice, and that is super important.
Very wide-ranging today. We've got people entering the workforce and we've got people entering aged care.
Kind of feels reflective of this business, doesn't it?
It does.
The full spectrum.
You never know what you're going to expect, what you're going to get some days when you walk into a potential new appointment and you think, okay, yep, here's something new, something different.
What else, Delta? Is there anything else you personally are either concerned or optimistic about? Anything at all that has cropped up that you think's worthy of a discussion?
Probably just very briefly, changes to the super rules from the 1st of July. We touched on super guarantee, that rates increased. The minimum requirement for income at $450 a month before you receive super guarantee has been removed. So there'll be a lot of people that, weren't in receipt of super contributions that will. Willow
at McDonald's earning under that threshold should be fine now. She gets some super into her super account.
And again, she's 16. It's important that you at least have an awareness of super and what it is and what it means. And yes, it's dry, but yes, it's important.
Question with that notice, do you know the co-contribution thresholds at the moment?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, sorry. But yeah, there's certainly an opportunity there.
Is it still $500 for every $1,000 contributed, or 50 cents for every dollar up to a certain threshold?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And again, that's money for nothing, effectively. Yeah. If you can be in a position where you can make a contribution and receive something from the government for nothing, so to speak, it's absolutely worthwhile taking advantage of that. But again, that probably ties into perhaps roles where people were working part-time and, again, reflective of the fact that that's often been women who might have had other caring roles. So, trying to remove some of that inequality around, the super system in particular being skewed to, a particular part of the population is a good thing. And hopefully there's some advantages for those people there.
I'm trying to Google it really quick, but haven't been able to find it. Anything else you want to talk about before we're about half an hour in? Do you want to add anything else before we wrap up?
We touched on markets a little bit, and I suppose, again, the conversations with clients at present, yes, markets are not doing what we want them to do. We want them to grow and to prosper. What options do we have? Well, we can panic and we can sell everything.
Wrong idea.
Yeah. Not something I'd be encouraging. We can hold the line if we've got the opportunity. Like we said, we can see this as a chance for us to get into the market at a lower point in time and buy into the market. So, yeah, it's obviously a more difficult conversation we're generally having with clients where investment performance is not what we would like it to be. But, more broadly, we provide strategic advice and make sure that clients are established in such a way that we can ride out these particular peaks and troughs in market conditions. So, we're not basing our bread and butter on what the market does. Yeah.
I think if we making wholesale changes to clients' portfolios because of a movement in the markets, then we've probably structured our clients' portfolios incorrectly in the first instance. And, even risk profiling, understanding what people's preferences are, their tolerances to investment risk, it just shows how important that is. And maybe that's the answer to my earlier comment about why existing clients tend to be more comfortable, because we have an understanding and appreciation of how they prefer to invest and what they can tolerate in terms of investment risk, and what advantage they can take from the markets when they actually decline. So
yeah, they've got to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
The sleep test.
Yeah. It's such a sort of a counterintuitive time. And I remember looking back when I first started, I think they call it the roller coaster of investor sentiment, where, you've got this person on the roller coaster where they're super happy when the market's very high. And so they think, it's a good time to buy because they're feeling happy and positive. Market starts to come off. They start to feel nervous. It starts to crash. It bottoms out. That's when they panic and think, the world's imploding. I should sell. And it's actually the complete opposite in terms of what we instinctively want to do, what history shows us we should do is the complete opposite. Yeah. The Warren Buffett philosophy of buy low, sell high. It does take some understanding and education, and also helps to have someone in your corner reminding you that, hey, it's okay. Like, it's okay. We've actually planned for this. We didn't know exactly when the downturn's going to happen, but when it does, when it does, we're not going to be selling. If anything, we're going to take the opportunity to take advantage of that, buy into the market when the market's low, and then benefit when the market actually recovers. It is actually, like, investment philosophy in that respect is quite a simple philosophy, but when you add emotion to it, it actually becomes a hard one for people to sort of hold on to.
Grasp, yeah. Just on that emotion, studying behavioural finance, we feel losses a lot more than we feel gains. So if we have a 5% loss, we really feel that. If we have a 5% gain, great. So it's really interesting that our brains work in that way.
What is that? Because I think that the same, applies to negative and positive news. Like, you look at how much attention goes towards negativity versus how much attention goes to positivity. If you look at the news cycle as well, it must be something ingrained in us.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a recognition of danger or something like that, where we place so much emphasis and attention on negativity. We don't give the same level of attention.
Yeah, it's that sort of survival, I need to be able to survive, the basic, needs. I need to survive. Okay, that's bad, that's danger. I need to be aware of it so I can stay away from it, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we need to get someone on the podcast who understands that.
That would be amazing.
Human psychology and why we act the way we do.
Yeah.
Anything else, Delta? Any other comments, quotes?
No, just I touched on before. I'd love to get the kids to have a better understanding of the value of money. In particular, the last couple of years over COVID, you just don't see cash. Everywhere is, tap your credit card. There's no physical cash present.
Do your kids get pocket money?
They do, but it sort of generally has gone into their bank account. So I've actually reverted to cash. So there's a jar of cash for each of them, and they see it's a finite resource, because that's the thing that there's limited understanding of for most children.
Yeah.
It's a finite resource. So how are we going to use it? Yeah.
I'll ask the kids now whether they want cash or transfer, and it depends. The big kids want the money just transferred into their account because they can see their account.
Yeah.
The younger ones want cold, hard cash.
The 5-year-old burns a hole in his pocket. As soon as he's got it, he's got to spend it.
Yeah. Alfie, my number 3, he reminded me the other day that I hadn't paid him for mowing the lawns from about 4 weeks ago, and he wasn't sure whether he really wanted to do any more chores for me until I
paid up.
Yeah, which is probably fair enough.
They don't forget.
They definitely don't forget. All right, well, thanks for the conversation today, Delta.
Thanks, Jade.
And I'll see you next Friday.
Sounds good.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britton FP, or Google Burke Britton Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility. Do your homework. Ask questions and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PB Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britton Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.